1941, the British government finally and reluctantly agreed to let a speed freak build their next warplane, and this man took two 1,600 horsepower engines, stuck them inside of a wooden airplane, and things immediately got out of hand in the best way possible. Today we're talking about—
Welcome to Pegasus versus the World, where we take on challenges, comedy, trending topics, and some travel. City boy! City boy! Oh yeah, you guys, we're officially back in the house. Daddy's home. Oh, what do I wear here? Oh, what is that? Is that the quack bang? Is that the quack bang from the fat electrician? Yes, it is. Yo, man, shout out to the fat electrician, man, for sending me a couple of things, a couple pieces. I'm definitely going to rock them. It's crazy because this color scheme, I have this hat, I have these Jordans. It's kind of wild. So anyway, shout out to the fat electrician. Yeah, I'm rocking his gear. Yeah. You can get that from his website. It's in the description. I'll probably try to put it in the description of this video, but it's definitely in the description of his videos. This looks sick. And I'm going to get a few more pieces on my own merit and support bro, man. But this is cool. He actually sent this to me, which it means I'm doing my job, mother suckers. Anyways, that's tight because I'll know him from Nathan. You know what I'm saying? From Joe, Nathan, Jonathan. I don't know nothing. Nathan. But it was cool, man. He showed love, sent me this. I just want to give him a shout out for that love. Make sure you guys check out his channel. Obvious. We're subscribed. Hit his videos with a like. Watch his videos independently of my reaction because reactions aren't a substitute for the original content creators. And let's get this train on the road. This one is titled Wrecking and Trolling the Germans with a Wooden Plane. The DH-98 Mosquito. Now, I picked this one because just the title. And maybe a lot of his titles are just ridiculous, right? Like ridiculous in the sense of the subject matter he's covering. I've never heard, right? Like, what was the one I did where it's like the soldier ODs and becomes unkillable or whatever? Like, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Anyways, yo, man, if you don't know who I am, I'm Black Pegasus. You can like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to rock with me. Also, in the description are my other channels. I have a pretty big music reaction channel, a couple other things going on. So let's rock. All right, man, let's go. The intro to this is insane. So boom, bye.
In 1941, the British government finally and reluctantly agreed to let a speed freak build their next warplane, and this man took two 1,600 horsepower engines, stuck them inside of a wooden airplane, and things immediately got out of hand in the best way possible. Today we're talking about the DH-98 de Havilland Mosquito. And while the official nickname is the Mosquito, it also goes by the Mossy, the Loping Lumberyard, the Wooden Wonder, and the Timber of Terror. And when something has that many different nicknames, you know it's going to be good. And just like so many other stories, this story too begins with a word from our sponsor, because this video is brought to you by my favorite sporting goods store, Shields. They've got a bunch of really cool retail locations all across the United States and an even better online store where you can get pretty much anything that has anything to do with going outside or being physically active. Or beef jerky. They have a bunch of beef jerky too. Anyways, if you use the link on my website or in the description down below, you're gonna get free shipping on your order. Let's get back to this video.
Shields is actually kind of fire. Like, we go there every now and then, and they got like a Ferris wheel in that bit. You can go on a Ferris wheel with your kids in Shields. That's just tight.
Our story begins in 1909 with Sir Geoffrey de Havilland. He is 27 years old, he just got married, and he has spent his entire life working on, building, and designing cars and motorcycles. But now, they're just not fast enough. There's this new thing out, airplanes, and they can go even faster. So naturally, he's got to get him one of those. The only problem is, building a plane, as I'm sure you can imagine, costs a lot of money, even back then when they were just biplanes. So where's he gonna get all this money? Well, he's gonna do exactly what any self-respecting man would do. He's gonna go to grandma for a 0% interest loan. And when I say a 0% interest loan, I mean he goes to his grandmother and asks for a, and I quote, advance on his inheritance. Straight up, Grandma, you need to fucking die or front me the money because I'm trying to make history over here. So Grandma, being the gangster that she is, decides that she's going to give little Jeffrey £1,000 for his airplane project. Now, Full stop. 1,000 pounds. You're like, oh, $1,000. That's a lot of money. No, this is 1909. 1,000 pounds back then is equivalent to like almost $200,000 American, okay? Like grandma is apparently loaded. So
it's crazy because I was going to say when he was saying that, you know, we came from a time where you ever hear like the elders or the OGs, like super OGs, be like, a loaf of bread was 25 cents or whatever. And then you see these old Americana signs where it's like something for 5 cents. And you're like, what? Yeah, man. And I've lived kind of through that. I mean, we're just talking about basic inflation, but I just wanted to highlight that because that's one of the things when in my youth, gas was 99 cents a gallon, sometimes 79 cents a gallon. And I remember there was this hamburger spot called 39-cent hamburger stand. Now, who knows what the hell was in that beef, but they were 39 cents. So just think about that real quick. Think about the 99-cent value menu at McDonald's, Wendy's, all these things when I was growing up as a kid in my teens, and just 20 years later, like non-existent. Like these things couldn't exist in our. It's just wild. So that does not surprise me, but it's a lot more. 1,000 pounds. I thought he was going to say like $10,000 or $50,000. $200,000 is crazy.
So he gets all this money and he begins designing and making his own airplane. And after 2 long years, the day finally comes that his airplane is finished and it's finally ready for its first flight. So he hops in, takes his plane up into the sky, and everything goes absolutely perfect right until he crashed it. The plane is completely destroyed, and like every other speed freak and race car driver I've ever met in my entire life, de Havilland just crawls out of the wreckage and was like, that's fun, let's do that again. He then proceeds to make his very own aircraft manufacturing company. Fast forward a couple of decades, de Havilland owns a very successful airplane company, and it's the early 1930s, and everybody is beginning to make their planes out of metal, but de Havilland isn't having it because he thinks that making planes out of metal is dumb. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's basically like, metal weighs more than wood, which means that my plane is going to be slower by making it out of metal. Why on earth would I do that? To which the entire aviation community basically yells at the guy like, well, metal is stronger than wood, duh. And he's like, fucking, it's an airplane. What? Just don't run it into shit. It'll be fine. If you want strong, go build a tank. What are we even talking about here? Have you ever seen a fucking squirrel with knight's armor on? No, it doesn't make any fucking sense. So de Havilland's like, fine, I'm just going to have.
All right, so I'm kind of tripping. And I'm going to sound like a goofy right now. I never knew in my life that, I guess I just never put it together. I never put together that at one point in time, planes were just made out of wood. Damn. I'm really late to the party, y'all. Hold on. Because were cars made out of, what the hell? Y'all got me, hold on. Were cars ever made out of wood? Question mark. Holy shit. I'm reconsidering everything I grew up thinking. I was like, yo, if he's telling me that planes are made out of wood, then cars had to be made out of wood. Yep, sure enough. Early 1900s, wooden frames and bodies. In the very beginning, cars were essentially motorized carriages. Makes sense because you had the horse and carriage. So they just put motors in the carriage and got rid of the horses. And so they started building airplanes out of wood, just following the car design with, what's it called, aerodynamics or some that makes sense. Okay, what I'm just coming clean with you guys is that I never knew that a plane was made of wood. And if I'm just keeping it a buck, being honest with y'all, I never knew that cars were made of wood. I'm just trying to think. Even the Model Ts where they're going like, I thought they were metal. I don't know. Anyways, well, here we go. You learn something new every day. That's why I watch this channel.
Have to prove it to these people. 1934, they're going to have the McRobertson Air Race. It's 11,200 miles from England to Melbourne, Australia. You have to fly all the way there. You can take any route you want. You can stop to refuel as many times as you want. There's this huge cash prize of 15,000 pounds. All the fastest airplanes on the planet are going to show up and try to win this race. So de Havilland creates a DH-98 Comet, ends up being the fastest plane in the world at this point in time, and obviously wins this race. And obviously, nobody cares because it's made out of wood, and they said that that's dumb. So nobody's going to learn anything from the point he just proved.
That's crazy because I couldn't even tell by that picture that it was made out of wood. You're telling me what's on the screen is wood? Yeah, there's no way I would have ever guessed planes were made out of wood at some point. This is kind of like low-key blowing my mind.
At this point in time, and obviously wins this race. And obviously nobody cares because it's made out of wood and they said that that's dumb. So nobody's going to learn anything from the point he just proved. Fast forward 1936, post-World War I, Germany is starting to rearm their entire country. Britain takes note and they're like, wow, we should build up some weapons too in case they try something. So they put out a bid. They let all the aircraft manufacturers know that they're looking for a twin-engine medium bomber that's capable of carrying 3,000 pounds and cruising at a speed of 300 miles an hour. So there's money to be made with the government contract. All the airplane manufacturers flock to it and start putting in their bids and their designs for their planes. And pretty much all of them follow the conventional knowledge of how to build a bomber at this point in time, which was to have a humongous, powerful airplane made out of metal and absolutely covered in machine guns everywhere, because you need to be able to fire in all directions to fight off all the fighter planes that are going to try to shoot you down. And absolutely everybody follows that basic outline except for de Havilland. He decides that he's going to build a plane using a completely different ideology from everybody else. Instead of having a plane that's going to have armor and machine guns and be able to win a firefight in the air against other fighter planes, he's just going to avoid the firefight altogether. Because at the end of the day, the bomber's job isn't to shoot down fighter airplanes, it's to deliver the bomb. He's going to get rid of all the armor, all the machine guns, all the defensive countermeasures that other bombers have, and use all of his efforts to try to get this plane as fast as possible to just be able to outrun the firefight. Because you know what's better than getting shot at and having body armor on? Not getting shot at. Realizing that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, he's going to make this plane as fast as possible, and to do that, he's going to make it out of wood again. So he builds his wooden bomber. He then proceeds to take the most powerful aircraft engine on the planet, the Merlin, and sticks 2 of them inside of this thing. And this aircraft is the fastest warplane on the planet. With a cruising speed of 325 miles an hour and a max speed of almost 400 miles an hour, this thing is absolutely untouchable, and that's not even the impressive part. It's the manufacturing process where de Havilland's idea stands head and shoulders above the competition. You have to remember, they're going into World War II. Plastic wasn't widely used yet, and anything that's plastic today was probably metal back then. Metal was used for absolutely everything from canteens to tanks to airplanes. All of it was metal, meaning that throughout the course of World War II, metal became extremely scarce, so much so that America was trying to build ships out of concrete, and Great Britain was trying to build an aircraft carrier out of wood pulp and ice. So being able to build a bomber out of a cheap and readily available resource like wood was a humongous deal. And it all trickles down from there, because not only are you just using an untapped resource, by using wood, that means that you're not going to have metal workers and riveters working on the plane. You're going to have woodworkers working on your plane, which at this...
Hold on. Are you guys listening to just the... And I get it. A lot of his fan base will come here and rewatch this reaction. But for the people who aren't in his fan base and are watching this for the first time with me as well, and shout out to all y'all who are his fans. Hell yeah, let's get it. I'm just saying how many little gems he dropped in that segment that were like historical gems that I didn't know, but it was just so like trying to make a ship out of concrete is crazy. But the other thing I wanted to highlight, though, is the main character and his thinking. That should be highlighted. There's a book, I think it's called Blue Ocean Strategy, and the concept of this book is that in the ocean, there's always fish fighting amongst each other for the scraps, for what is there, etc., creating a red ocean because there's always fighting blood in the water. But the fish that finds, its own thing has this blue ocean strategy and is always by itself, in abundance, kind of like that's like a really quick summary of the concept of the blue ocean strategy. Simply doing things different. You're in your own plane. And this is what the main character is on. He thinks outside of the box. And Elon Musk is kind of known, I think, for this saying. I'm not sure if he coined it, but as of recently, I don't remember the phrase exactly, but it's about the people who solve the biggest problems, garner the most value. Paraphrasing, but something to that nature. People who can solve the biggest problems get rewarded for that more than people who are solving little problems or people who aren't solving problems at all. And this goes into, like, let's say the workforce. If you're just working for someone and just handling biz, there's value there, but you will get paid more if you can solve problems. So like a manager is over his staff and solving their little problems. Oh, this ain't working. The ice cream machine's off, blah, blah, blah. And he gets paid a little more, and it just goes up. The bigger the problem you can solve, the more value you create, the more you're worth. And that's definitely worth highlighting and noting here, because this dude is operating in the blue ocean strategy with the blue ocean strategy by thinking outside of the box and doing things that nobody else is doing, which we'll see where this goes. But essentially, you know, all the things that I've read about people who work in this dynamic or think in that type of way, they excel past, you know, the average.
Are you just using an untapped resource? By using wood, that means that you're not going to have metal workers and riveters working on the plane. You're going to have woodworkers working on your plane, which at this point in time was a pretty much untapped labor pool that was still doing other stuff like building cabinets and pianos. They had no real way to contribute to the war effort, except now they do. And the list of benefits keeps going. I feel like I'm in an infomercial.
But I'm not done yet.
Because the Mosquito's plan is not to fight firefights in the air, but to simply outrun them, you know what the Mosquito doesn't need? Machine guns. You know what you don't need if you don't have machine guns? Ammunition. And you know what you also don't need if you don't have machine guns? People to fire the machine guns. So you're also saving guns, ammunition, and personnel because the Mosquito only has 2 crew members. And you know what all those things do? They add weight to the aircraft, like over 1,000 pounds, meaning that now that all that's gone, the Mosquito can now carry an extra 1,000 pounds worth of bombs to drop on the enemy, which is actually what a bomber's job is. So just to recap, de Havilland has now delivered a bomber to the British government that is made out of a readily available resource with a brand new untapped labor pool that is cheaper in pretty much every way, and it delivers more bombs faster to the enemy. So clearly, the British government fucking hates it. And I mean, really, Sir Geoffrey de Havilland really should be more considerate. How are these poor politicians and defense contractors going to be able to feed their kids if he's out here trying to make planes that are cheap and reliable? I mean, what's the point of even going to war if you're not going to make a bunch of money off of it, right? Look.
Sounds like Britain. Yo, son. Oh, Lord.
Contractors going to be able to feed their kids if he's out here trying to make planes that are cheap and reliable. I mean, what's the point of even going to war if you're not going to make a bunch of money off of it, right? Look, I guess I'm just glad it's not a uniquely American thing for this to happen. So all the other aircraft manufacturers are talking smack about de Havilland's idea. They're saying that it's basically a giant model airplane and that wood is not a suitable building material for a respectable plane and all this other stuff that they're desperately trying to come up with so that he doesn't win the bid. And that's when Lord Teeny Mittens, Beaverbrook over here chimes in. He's the Minister of Aircraft Production for all of Britain and he just shuts the project down. I'm assuming it's because a giant model airplane would make his hands look even tinier.
I've got these tiny hands and that's gonna make them look even tinier.
In fact, the only person that even liked the idea of the Mosquito.
Yo, this dude's dumb, bro. The way he edits these videos, holy smokes. All right, keep going. And when I said the Britain comment, I'm being sarcastic. Like, we get it. Like, the warmongers. I like how he put his little satirical angles in there. This actually, because I haven't really listened to their podcast like that. I've heard clips, and even you guys in the comments, because I was talking about him scripting these, right? And you guys like, yo, he does this unscripted, da-da-da-da. But I just meant like, so for example, when I've done a video similar to this, not even on this level, it's like I put bullet points and that's scripting it to me. And I look at the bullet point and then I talk about it. I just free ball it. That's my style. It seems like that's what you guys were insinuating. He does a style like that. But anyways, I like how he just threw the little satire in there, the, America, Britain, like, wars that never end kind of concept. Anyways, that leads to like, I would love to actually tap into their podcast and check out, like, my curiosity is that their conspiracy theories. Because I know for a fact, like, they have their own thoughts, ideas on certain events and endeavors that have happened. And they might even have these like understandings and they might know more about some things that even the conspiracy theorists put out there just because of where they're at. I could be wrong. But I love conspiracies. I love conspiracy theories. Man, that's that. So I'm like curious what conspiracies he subscribes to or even has a little bit of knowledge and background in some of those things.
Mosquito was the air marshal for the RAF, Sir Wilfred Freeman, who also, by sheer coincidence, is the only man in this conversation that has flown planes in combat and presumably knows what he's actually talking about and doesn't have a vested financial interest in the outcome. Freeman is also responsible for the RAF ordering the Spitfire, the Hurricane, and the Lancaster bomber, as well as the development of the Merlin engine. Like, he's got a pretty good track record of picking amazing planes. So obviously we're going to listen to what Sir Wilfred Freeman has to say, right? Wrong. 100% wrong. What we're going to do is we're going to have Lord Bitchmittens over here, fire him, transfer him to a different department, and then take credit for all of his accomplishments and use that newfound status to kill the Mosquito project once and for all. Because politics. And that's pretty much it. 1937, the British government told de Havilland, kick rocks, we're not interested. We're going to move on with our life. Fast forward, 1940, World War II has in fact kicked off, and it is not looking that great for the British because we are right in the middle of the Battle of Britain. Okay, if you don't know, the Battle of Britain, also known as the Air Battle for England, was basically the Germans were bombing Britain every day for about 3 months straight. Britain was obviously sending up their air force to fight back. Both sides lost thousands of people and thousands of airplanes. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you the RAF is now short a bunch of planes and a bunch of pilots, and there's really no way of replenishing the amount of planes because metal is extremely scarce, as well as the manpower to make the planes anyways. If only there was some type of plane that they could make out of an alternative material to metal that had a completely different labor force to build it. Oh wait, we've had that literally the entire time, we just didn't want to use it because of politics. Perfect. So the British government finally reluctantly orders 50 of them. So de Havilland gets to work right away, builds all these planes, turns them over to the RAF. The RAF then starts practicing with them, and the pilots absolutely love them. The only problem is they're a little bit hard to take off and land, which makes sense because they're basically a paper airplane with a fucking V8 attached to them. So the decision gets made that only the best pilots are going to be allowed to fly these things, and now we got to find what the first mission for the Mosquito is going to be, and it's going to be super secret because nobody knows that this plane even exists yet. So up until this point in the war, the British really didn't have a surveillance plane capable of flying over enemy territory and seeing what they were up to, so they were actually using their fighters, the Spitfire, to do that. And while the Spitfire is awesome, it sucked for this particular job because it simply couldn't hold enough fuel to go very far into enemy territory. The Mosquito, on the other hand, instead of filling it with bombs, we're just going to fill it with an extra gas tank, and this thing is going to be able to fly from England all the way to the Soviet Union and back in one flight without refueling, and that's exactly what it does. Yeah, the Mosquito is for all intents and purposes the world's first long-range reconnaissance aircraft that set the groundwork for every aircraft after it.
I was about to say that. I was literally, that's the only, because I'm not that hip, but I was like, yo, is he really saying this is like the first stealth bomber? Because they're saying that wrecking and trolling the Germans with a wooden plane. And I'm just like, that's crazy. So anyways, that's dope.
And that's exactly what it does. Yeah, the Mosquito is for all intents and purposes the world's first long-range reconnaissance aircraft that set the groundwork for every aircraft after it. It's basically the acoustic SR-71. So that's what they use it for the rest of 1941. 1942 rolls around, they're like, oh, hey, good idea. This thing can hold 4,000 pounds worth of ordnance. What if we just did one 500-pound bomb and some extra fuel tanks, and then we could bomb super deep into enemy territory? And that's exactly what they're going to do. Operation Jericho, a bunch of wooden wonders are going to low-level penetrate deep into enemy territory and deliver a payload. Try saying that with a straight face.
Yo, right as he started saying went deep into, I was like, yeah, we got the same type of sense of humor, bro. Let's go.
What they're going to do. Operation Jericho, a bunch of wooden wonders are going to low-level penetrate deep into enemy territory and deliver a payload.
Wooden, too.
Try saying that with a straight face.
Give him that wood. Give him that wood.
So a bunch of Mosquitoes take off to Norway. They are going to bomb Gestapo headquarters with 500-pound bombs. They fly all the way there above the ground and or ocean at like 100 feet, make it there more or less completely undetected, and bomb Gestapo headquarters. The only problem was because they were so low to the ground, they decided that they were going to extend the fuse time on the bombs because they don't detonate on impact, they detonate on a timer. So they extended the timer to 11 seconds to allow the planes to get out of the blast radius of the bomb. So they went ahead and they dropped the bombs. The bombs were a direct hit on the Gestapo building. The only problem was the fuse was a little bit too long, and a 500-pound bomb traveling at like 400 miles an hour apparently has enough force in it to go through one wall, through the building and out the other wall, and all 4 of the bombs did exactly that, flying completely through the building before detonating. So the mission failed successfully. Did they accomplish their goal? Not really, but they did prove that the Mosquitoes were pretty much unstoppable and very accurate. So now they're going to begin using the Mosquitoes to nuisance bomb Germany. Every night...
Okay, before he gets into this, you know, you can watch this video unadulterated on his channel, and I recommend that, right? Independently of my reactions, go check it out, support bro, man. I just wanted to talk about what he's highlighting with... this is similar to life in any endeavor, whether it's personal life, building things, building a business, you know, electronics, and even where we're at with technology, trial and error. And he just made a great, like, even though it was kind of brief and it's not the key point of this story, I like kind of honing in on those little things, because we have to think, how many errors in our past how many people had to pass away, you know, trying to make an airplane, crashing an airplane, to get to the point where we have the Mosquito dropping these bombs, and then they figure it out, to where we're at now, where it's so accurate, and now we have drones and people just, you know, flying the drone in and dropping bombs and stuff like that. There's so much trial and error that led us to this point of sophistication in technology, and now we got to move forward. And there's still, like, because you see some of the drone strikes, there's still mistakes made, and people learn from that. I don't know. I just wanted to highlight that because it's incredible. It's similar to my martial arts journey. You know, not a lot of times, getting better and being successful is about trial and error. And just taking some time to acknowledge all the failures to get to a successful mission, to become a successful martial artist, a successful business owner, have a successful relationship. Trial and error is a huge thing. And even though it was just kind of, we whizzed past that, like, yo, these bombs didn't work because of this, but we just saw a great example of trial and error, and let's just see where it takes us in the storyline.
So the mission failed successfully. Did they accomplish their goal? Not really, but they did prove that the Mosquitoes were pretty much unstoppable and very accurate. So now they're going to begin using the Mosquitoes to nuisance bomb Germany. Every night they're going to begin sending out swarms of Mosquitoes to bomb Germany on their own home turf to begin weakening their morale. And with the Mosquitoes, this works for some reason way better than any other plane was ever able to do it. Like, the Mosquitoes rarely ever get caught when they're dropping bombs. So they're kind of like, okay, well, let's try a bigger bomb then. And the RAF starts using the Mosquito to drop the 4,000-pound blockbuster bomb on Berlin. They then proceeded...
Yo, that says happy... Oh, Lord. It says, what does it say?
Bombs.
Happy birthday,
so they're
or happy Christmas? Adolf? That's hilarious.
Kind of like, okay, well, let's try a bigger bomb then. And the RAF starts using the Mosquito to drop the 4,000-pound blockbuster bomb on Berlin. They then proceeded to do that every single night for 220 nights straight, earning it the nickname the Berlin Express. And then somebody at the RAF finally puts together the fact that maybe the Mosquitoes are so successful at not getting caught on their bombing runs, not necessarily because it's nighttime and not necessarily because they're really fast, but because they're made out of wood, and wood doesn't give off nearly as strong of a radar signature as metal does, which means it stands to reason that they would have just as much success bombing during the day as they would at night, which, if successful, is going to be extra demoralizing, because at this point in time, everybody understands that there's never bombing raids during the daylight because the fighter jets would be able to take them out immediately. But in the case of the Mosquito, if they don't get picked up on radar, nobody might scramble the fighter jets until it's too late. So the RAF, with their immaculate sense of British humor, realize that this is a very rare opportunity to troll the enemy that they cannot afford to waste. So, British intelligence finds out that January 30th, 1943, the Nazis are going to be holding a humongous rally to celebrate their 10-year anniversary of coming to power. It's going to be huge. Hitler's right-hand man, Hermann Göring's going to be there giving a big speech. They're going to put the entire thing out on the radio waves so the whole country can hear it. It's going to be a huge morale boost to the Nazis. And it probably was, right up until the RAF sent out the Mosquitoes and bombed all of the broadcasting towers for Berlin, so the entire country just got to hear explosions, screams, and then the radio cut out forever. And then the British turned it into an entire propaganda thing, because not only are we hitting you on your own home turf in broad daylight, it's also in a wooden plane. So the Nazis are at...
Hold on. Let's just highlight this real quick. So the keys to this video for me is, one, I never knew there were such things as wooden planes, all right? So this is the biggest takeaway for me. I just didn't know. I didn't even know they was using wooden cars, which, you learn something new every day, right? But then we fast forward to the pushback of, even creating the wooden plane. Like, it was literally, yo, we ain't doing this. Well, we don't have a choice. And now it's their leading. It's like, now we're like, oh yeah, this is our trophy. Like, we killing the game, B, da-da-da-da. I'm like, that is wild. We went from 0 to 100 real quick, yo.
And then the British turned it into an entire propaganda thing, because not only are we hitting you on your own home turf in broad daylight, it's also in a wooden plane. So the Nazis are absolutely furious. They want to retaliate, so they ramp up air raids on Britain. The only problem is they can't really pull them off in daylight, but it is 1943, so they have figured out how to put radar in their individual fighter planes, meaning that the night raids are going to be far more successful than they ever were before. Or so they thought, because guess what? The British have a plane that's pretty much immune to radar. So they take the Mosquito bomber and they turn it into the bomber fighter by putting 4 20mm machine guns in the nose, plus another 4 Browning machine guns in the nose, and then send them out as night fighters, and they proceed to absolutely wreck the Luftwaffe in night combat, because they can't be seen by radar, and they have radar to see them. Then, after seeing how incredibly good the Mosquito was at night fighting, the RAF had another brilliant idea. What if they sent out a bunch of Mosquito night fighters to wait above German airfields, and then sent out regular bombing raids with regular bombers, and when those bombers got picked up on radar, they would scramble the German fighters to go up and intercept them, but the Mosquitoes would already be above them and literally spawn kill the Germans the second they got in the air. Not only did this work, it virtually shut down the Luftwaffe's ability to operate at night altogether, and the British were able to bomb Germany completely unopposed. At this point, Hermann Göring is sitting in his office like,
What? Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
Okay, and you have to remember, Hermann Göring in World War I was a fighter pilot. He scored 7 kills in World War I, making him an ace. So like the whole aerial combat thing is like his ballpark. So the fact that the RAF is having a warheads on foreheads extravaganza and there's nothing he can do about it is driving him absolutely insane. And then you sprinkle on top the fact that he's over there with his superior German engineering and the RAF is just dunking on him and his men in what amounts to a Pinewood Derby plane. This man is about to lose his mind. So he creates a special division of the Luftwaffe whose sole purpose is to find and destroy the Mosquitoes. Okay, they're already struggling in the war, and this man has now just cut out an entire section of his air force to do nothing but hunt down these wooden planes and try to destroy them. Needless to say, it fails miserably. So at this point, Hermann Göring's like, well, if I can't beat him, I've got to join him. So he orders his men to build him a wooden plane. And they straight up copy the Mosquito. Like, so much so that they also call it the Mosquito, but they just spell it with a K. Like, straight up, yeah, you can copy my homework, but make it look a little bit different.
Yo, they straight pulled a Chinese manufacturing. Bro, that's crazy as hell. Man, so I'm going to just keep bringing this point home. To be successful in life, to be successful in anything, right? Being able to have that vision, right? Innovate, adapt, keep moving. After failures, after success, innovate, adapt, keep moving. That's all I keep hearing on this whole thing. It's just like we went from all these different things to this dude's like, nah, I can make this work. I can make this work with the wooden plane. And you just think, went from, oh, I'm going to make the plane like this so it's faster. Now they did everything that, originally made the plane fast, and they're still winning, right? They added machine guns, which I don't know with those type of machine guns if it takes, they have to have an extra person in there to man it and stuff like that. But it's still like they adapted for that moment. These dudes are like, yo, we're going to do these air raids. So they adapted for that moment. It's incredible. But you can take that blueprint, that playbook, and add it to your life in a way, add it to your business, and utilize these ideas to be successful.
That's what they did. So they get the Mosquito with a K built, and to the surprise of absolutely nobody, it's a pretty awesome plane. But then guess what happens to it? You're never gonna guess what happens to the German Mosquito. A bunch of high-ranking Nazis, politicians, get together and they're like, I don't think a wooden plane's a good idea. I want big metal planes with metal armor and a bunch of machine guns all over them, because that's the way to go. The same political BS that shut down the British Mosquito 10 years prior is now holding up the Nazis. So much so that they don't even get their first test flight in until June of 1944, which is way too late in the war for the Nazis to begin making a new type of plane and mass producing it. So that's it. The Germans never really got their version of the Mosquito. They ended up losing World War II. Everybody lived happily ever after. So I guess while it was dipshit politicians with teeny hands that prevented the British from getting the Mosquito on time, it was also dipshit politicians that prevented the Nazis from getting the Mosquito on time. So everything kind of equals out in a weird roundabout kind of way. In conclusion, the de Havilland Mosquito at a glance might appear to be this one-off weird thing that happened one time during World War II. But in reality, it is probably the single most important and influential aircraft in aviation history. You see, all planes today are not built with the ideology that they need to have armor and machine guns in order to take a hit and return fire, or at least most of them aren't. They would pretty much all much rather be so fast that they can't be caught, or so sneaky that they never get seen. And that entire strategy was pioneered by a wooden plane in World War II known as a de Havilland Mosquito. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out. Also, the more I study history, the more absolutely positive I become that all politicians are morons, and I'm pretty sure the only reason they have to run for office is because they can't walk and chew bubblegum for office.
Message, you see the, oh, hold on. What you got?
Okay, no, seriously. It's like the saying, oh, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Ha ha ha. Except the horse is somehow your boss that you're, for some reason, partially responsible for hiring, but also you have no authority to fire. And now the horse is like making all these amazing stock trades with top secret information that only the horse could know, which is illegal, but also the horse gets to determine what's illegal, so you have no standing to do anything about it, even though you hired the horse and now you can't fire it. Go buy a shirt at thefatelectrician.com. Thanks.
Yo, y'all see the website, man. That was tight. That actually kind of started diving into my question about, yo, I really want to know what conspiracy theories he subscribes to. What he was just saying was not. That's just all, like, that's just what it is with politics and government. So it's a charade, man. Yo, he's throwing shots at everyone. That's great. That's great. Yo, go get some merch at it on his website. It's swaggy, baby. From now on, call me the Black Electrician, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
City boy! City boy!